When we first started out, Gettysburg Leadership Seminar was really the service that we offered, and which has grown over time and evolved over time. And it's still our mainstay, one of our most popular ones. Can you describe that particular seminar and what people get out of it?
Well, you know, it goes back to my time at the War College. We had taken the War College students down there very traditionally as a staff, or what they call a military staff ride. And having done that a number of times, it occurred to me, you know, this is just a case study of an organization in a crisis. And in a crisis, we see good and bad leadership stick out very, very distinctly. So if you dampen down the emphasis on strictly military things, it serves as a case study that any group of people could use to look at leadership principles and concepts. And so what I like to often say is, you know, if we as a group of smart people, and all the groups we work with are very smart and well-organized folks, if we took them to any organization and they were granted free access where they could go around and ask questions, see what was going on, after a couple of days, we could make some pretty insightful comments about how well or how poorly that organization was run. But if we happened to be there when things were really going bad, a crisis occurred, then what's good and bad about how the organization is being led or run would stick out in bold relief. And that, in essence, once again, is a crisis. And that's what you see in a battle, two organizations that are involved in a crisis. So those principles of leadership we talk about at Gettysburg, which were enormously important in success or failure during those very trying times in 1863, the role of technology, effective communication, strategic vision, leading your boss, the role of initiative, emotional intelligence, all those things played a role in success or failure over those dramatic 3 days. But those concepts and principles are just as important to leaders in the 21st century, and frankly just as bedeviling in many cases to leaders in the 21st century as they were back to those folks back in the 19th century. So it just serves as a great vehicle to examine them. And then furthermore, I think people, mostly adults and professional adults, they like learning through stories. They like the whole idea of a story. They like the whole idea of being outside and experiencing it. And when you talk about what does it take to build a team, you know, if you're standing on the seminary ridge and you're saying, okay, we're going to walk 1.1 miles as the Confederates did on the third day and attack that ridge line over there, well, what does it take to build a team to do that? And if you're standing there looking at that ground, it obviously has a greater impact on you than, frankly, if you're sitting in a classroom and looking at PowerPoint slides or trying to do it in that fashion.
Right. So speaking of Gettysburg, we now have evolved to doing many other locations across the country, historic locations like Antietam and Bull Run, for example. We now do the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas, the USS Iowa, USS Hornet, which are out in southern and northern California, the Nixon Library, also in California, another location we do, and then finally Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. So we have now gone from Gettysburg to Hawaii, and we do those case studies all over.
And we've actually added a new one, you may recall, in the last year, and that's the Battle of Yorktown.
Right.
And going down and working with the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, which has been great fun. And this has offered, I think, us, you know, for me, a great, unique experience and great fun. Examine all these historical experiences, using those as vehicles to talk about leadership, and along the way, built great relationships with a number of really unique places. For example, the Alamo. We've done leadership workshops at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, Louisiana, Colonial Williamsburg, the Nixon Library, as you mentioned. The most iconic spots in America are places we do leadership workshops. There is nothing that is more moving than standing at the angle at Gettysburg where the Confederates attack on the third day, or standing where Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address to talk about strategic vision, or standing at the Alamo to talk about teamwork, or standing aboard the USS Arizona Memorial and looking at the battleship under the water and talking about what does it take for moral courage to lead in a difficult moment. There's nothing, I think, as impactful as that, and these are iconic spots for America that we are so fortunate to use as classrooms for the leadership courses, leadership development we conduct.